Hello,
So,
everyone. I am here today with Joy Emboden Overstreet. She's the author of The Cherry Pie Paradox, The Surprising Path to Diet Freedom and Lasting Weight Loss. Her articles and essays have appeared in a number of national publications, including the New York Times, Working Mother, and Healthline. She currently lives in Portland, Oregon, where she has a busy practice doing personal color analysis and writes a weekly newsletter, Alive with Joy. And I also have with me Melanie Carey. She's a Seattle based audiobook narrator. Melanie earned a degree in theater and worked as an actor on stage before transitioning to audio. Melanie has narrated over 50 titles and is passionate about personal development and creating community through telling stories.
mm,
Joy and Melanie, welcome.
Thank you.
thanks, Becky.
So, Joy,
It's
let's start off with you. I know that you created the revolutionary Thin Within workshops back in 1975. Now, that was decades before intuitive eating and many other anti diet books became popular. Now, your program focused on mindfulness and a mindset shift rather than on what to eat or what not to eat. I know that was a big success in the San Francisco Bay Area. But then in 1980, you left. Tell us about that. Why did you leave?
yeah. Well, I left for several reasons. One was I had resolved my own weight problem, and I saw that the business was going well. Um, but I'd also been with women. 90% of our clients were women and 90% of our staff was female. And I'd been a widow for several years. And I was thinking, this is not where I'm going to find a new partner, if that's what I'm looking for. So
Yeah.
there was that. And then the other thing is that I realized that I've never been a person for band-aids, solutions to problems. And I thought that by going into mindset and mindfulness, I was getting to the root of our participants' weight problems. But in fact, I began to see that the problems were really systemic, not just individual. I mean, sure, we all have our bad habits, but the bad habits had been reinforced by the American culture, the food industry, the media, and the USDA rules and
Right.
regulations. So I decided that I would go back and get deeper into the whys by going to grad school. So I
Oh,
went to
interesting.
graduate school in public health. Then I got married again
Mhm.
and had another child, and my life took off in
Yes.
different directions. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow,
So,
cool. Very good.
yeah.
Very good. Now, I know this is a very personal story. So tell us about your decision and why you chose not to narrate the book yourself.
Good question. I really struggled with it because it feels like it's very much in my voice. I mean,
Mhm.
it just I'm a little bit snarky, and and I I don't listen to stories and excuses with a whole lot of patience
Mhm.
because I've heard them from myself to
Uh,
myself,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
so uh, but my voice is not as smooth and youthful as it once was, and I have some verbal tics that I thought might be taking so much time of the editor that it would be maybe better to have a professional do it. And
Yeah.
so you sent me like a dozen people reading part of the first chapter. And honestly, Melanie was the only one. It was
Uh-huh.
like, nope, 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 nope. Oh, really, really, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I know that can be a really challenging decision for many authors, who feel very that their story is also very personal. So I appreciate your feedback on that and your response. And Melanie, so I would love to hear from you. Like as a narrator, did you have were there favorite aspects of the book or favorite parts within it?
Mm.
Yeah, tell me
It
about that.
was, oh, it was such a joy. It's so nice to narrate a book that I agree with the philosophy 100%, that
Mm.
I'm actually inspired by, that I'm actually writing down ideas for my own life,
Hmm.
aside from that. And that just
Mm.
makes it so much fun. I was so honored too, because the voice is so joy. It was like, I am playing her. Like, I need to tell her truth. I need to do it in her voice. And the writing is so strong and it is so clear, and her humor comes out. And I just love it. I think my definitely the most challenging, but also my favorite was singing the streets of Laredo with
Uh,
with your lyrics. I don't think it made it to the final one, which is probably for the best. But I had a lot of fun doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a
great.
song that one of our participants rewrote as her way of practicing her personal affirmations as she went walking. And I don't know
Yeah.
what people thought as she walked down the street singing this song to herself, but it worked for her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's really great. I love that part.
Yeah.
Honestly, my favorite part that you read was the cottage cheese
Oh,
story.
I love that. Yeah.
And in fact, I I went through a bunch of different titles for the book. I originally wanted to call it Becoming Thin Within, but I uh, approached my son and his girlfriend with that title, and they're like, "Nope, nope, no, mom, you can't do that. You cannot say thin. Nobody wants to be thin anymore. That's like we're into body positivity, and your book is about body positivity, so
Right.
don't use the word thin." And I'm like, but that was the whole thing.
That was
I
the name of
mean,
my workshop.
Right.
it was the name of my works, right? So so he said, "Well, what else? Is there some other part of the book that really you could use the title or the words as a springboard?" And I'm like, "Well, fuck the cottage cheese would be definitely one." And I actually had thought of "fuck the cottage cheese" as a title, and he's like, "No, mom, no. That was like 5 years ago. We were fucking everything. You were not
Yeah.
fucking cottage cheese for this title." So, so, so he's like, "Okay, keep going." And so then there was like, and he said, "Well, what about the cherry pie in the beginning?" And
Mm.
I'm like, that we
I
could
love that
do.
story. I love
Yeah.
that story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So the
great.
cherry pie paradox is kind of when I came, it is my bolt of lightning or bolt of insight when I had breakfast with a friend who was very slim and petite, bird-like even, and she was eating a piece of cherry pie and offered me some, but I was eating modestly, so I only wanted a cup of coffee. And so she sat there and ate this pie while I was watching,
Mm.
drooling, and then like halfway through the piece, she patted her stomach and said, "Oh, I'm full." And she pulled the garbage can over to her and dumped it, dumped the remaining part in the garbage can. And I could not believe it that somebody would throw really good food away without even a second thought. I mean, I'd seen people throw food away before, and that was a like almost unacceptable. But to see this person throw food away, um, and as if it was no big deal, I thought to myself, she knows something. I'll have what she's having.
Right.
She
Right.
knows something that I don't know,
Yeah.
and I want to figure that out because in my diet mind, you
Mhm.
just don't throw food away.
Right. Yeah. She had an
Yeah.
internal diet that you were, or
Yeah.
mindset
Exact.
that, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I love
So
when a creative project like this starts with a question. It doesn't start with "I know something." It starts with "She knows something. I want to discover it." And
yeah.
I love when that's the impetus that
Mhm.
starts something.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's interesting that you say that because my I just am finishing up a workbook to go along with the book or the audiobook, because people have ahas when they read the book. I mean, it just is. I think there's a lot of aha places in it, and an aha is worth what you paid for it, which is not much unless you actually apply it. And so the workbook is to I hope help people actually put into practice some of the ahas they're getting in reading or listening to the book.
Yeah, nice. I'm curious, have you had any reader or listener responses that have surprised you at this point?
I'm not so much surprised as pleased that many people realize that it's not just really about food and eating and your weight. It's really a way of approaching a problem. It's a process of problem solving, and it is an approach to life, I think, of waking up. So that people have been noticing that, and I am very happy about that. The thing that always surprised me, and still with the feedback, is how men take to it so quickly, because men in generally speaking, don't have all the stories and excuses and media stuff, the garbage that women have around eating and weight and diets. And so they see the winning formula and they go, oh, okay, I can do that. That's simple. And then they do it, and then they lose the weight, and it's like, that was no big deal.
Right.
Like,
right.
And for women, they have to get through all this garbage, mental garbage.
Yeah. Now, you sort of hinted at this, but can you use this process that you outline in Cherry Pie Paradox to resolve other personal problems?
Well, I used it to create a course for the Lung Association on quitting smoking.
Nice.
I use it adapted to teach clutter clearing classes at Clark College, which is a local community. And a lot of the little practices I find myself doing every day, and like choosing things that are not just because they're in front of me, but because I actually am intentional. I mean, it's really about being more intentional and discerning with your choices. Right. And that comes up all day long, every day.
Right.
So
it changed my way of thinking. Your idea of a problem, not a problem, but a project. I love that. Like, there's actually nothing wrong. It's not a problem, but it's something you're confronted with in a project. How are we going to do it? Like, that changed everything for me.
That's so great. Really. Yes. Yeah.
That's great.
Well, I think the other thing that is really important in the book is the focus on the positive, because so much of our weight issues, body issues, are seeing the problems, and not seeing the other side of it. You know, it's kind of the yin and yang. You cannot have one. You cannot have dark without light. You cannot have light without dark. You cannot be thinking one way without also having the other side of yourself there. And it's so easy and so human to focus on our what's not working. I mean, I still do it. I the other day I took the Clifton Strengths Finder test, and they, for the $49 version, you get 34 strengths ranked in the strongest to the weakest. And the idea is that you focus on the 5 strengths and work to use them more and more. My eye goes right to the bottom, to the 34th. It's like, oh my God, they found that thing and I need to work on that thing.
Right.
Yeah. Joy, I know we added meditations from the book to your website so that your readers, your listeners, and people who come to visit your site have those as can have those as a resource. And that was an important part of the audiobook production process. Um, can you share some of like the challenges and opportunities that you discovered in the process of of creating those meditations?
The challenge, the challenges are that the reader of the narrator, the speaker, the leader of the meditation really has to imagine the person in front of them doing the meditation. And so the timing is so tricky. It's like, how long does it take for you to imagine this particular scenario or imagine this feeling or whatever the question is? And some people get it right away, and some people are like, and how to do the timing.
Right.
We'll never know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll
Trying
never
to
know.
accommodate
Yeah.
the sort of
Yeah.
the range of expected response is a very tricky thing, isn't it?
It is a tricky thing. And we went around and around about music behind them, and eventually decided not to, and we need to deal with that on the website. But they need to know that the silence, because I'm not in front of them leading them, they need to know that there's something actually happening. And so do we put music in there? And I realized, having listened to, I don't know how many meditation apps on my phone, that they never have background noise. There's just silence. And you sit there and your mind either wanders or it doesn't. And then somebody, the leader, teacher, whatever, talks again and so forth. And so I had to reconcile that. That was that was a battle, an internal battle for me.
Yeah. And I know it was challenging, and but sort of bringing up, and I wanted to bring it into the conversation because I feel like it's a question that comes up for many authors who are writing sort of in this arena, which is more and more, thankfully, of where more and more meditations and this kind of work is included in books and in audiobooks. And then from my perspective, like the interesting thing is exploring the decision, like how, what are we trying to accomplish? How can we best accomplish it? And we'll have all different ways of doing that, but sort of diving down that rabbit hole can really be, I think, enlightening and interesting. Yes, at times frustrating too, I'm sure, but it's that wrestling with that problem that or project. Reframe. Okay.
I thought that the guided meditations are so important because I think, eating and changing our eating and looking within, these are hard things, and it's so hard. And we come across our traumas, and it's such an individual journey. But a guided meditation, you're also not alone. And I love that. I love that. It's so individual, it's intimate, it's private, but someone's with you. And I just, as you're, going within, someone's right next to you saying, you're doing great. And they're kind of funny and they're lighthearted, but also respectful. And I loved the tone of the meditations because sometimes meditations can be so heavy and they can be so serious. And it is important work. It's vulnerable work, but to also be lighthearted, I just think the tone was just really nice. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I really strive for that. I think when you have a problem, quote unquote problem, that has been weighing you down for years, and you have all these feelings about it and these stories about it, it seems like it seems like a heavy stone, a millstone. And to take it lightly is like, okay, we can lighten up about this. Let's not just wallow in the misery of it. Let's see the other side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you felt that.
Well, humor's connecting, it brings us in community. And I just think it was always right there when it needed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you tell us anything more about the workbook that you're working on now, or you just finished? Did you
Well,
finish it?
It's got to be typeset. So
Okay.
it's,
Okay.
yeah. But the question about the meditation and the workbook is actually very similar, because I've done workbooks. I've had workbooks, and the difficulty with workbooks is that they ask a question and then they give you this much space
Right.
to answer it, or they give you this much space
Right.
to answer it. And you're like, you have this much to say, which doesn't fit in the space they gave you, or it just swims in the giant space they gave you. And for me, a Yankee, I hate wasting paper space.
Or maybe feeling like you need to fill it up, like
Or
you're supposed to have
feeling
more
like
to
I
say.
should
Right.
have more to say. And so I decided to give a little space after each question. But then if the person had more to say about it, which I hope they will, then there's like a page number, and in the back it's like all blank, and they can go to page number whatever to continue their thoughts. But if they only have a little bit to say, and there's no lines, because like some people have big fat handwriting, and some people, like my daughter, write like mouse. I don't know, really teeny scratches. So I'm just having spaces and blank space, or maybe dots, like bullet journal dots.
Yeah.
Nice. What a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
But the thing is that there's so many prompts in the book, and if you're listening, it's like, what did she say? Should I write that down someplace? So the idea is that, particularly for the people with the audiobook, they have a reference that they can look at. They don't have to grab a notebook and start scribbling right then and there. So,
Right.
yeah.
That's great. I want to come back to sort of diet culture kind of questions. So, regarding diet culture, how far do you think we've come since your work back in the 70s?
We've had some pluses and minuses, I'd say. We are more heavier than we have ever been. So something is not working well. The kinds of diets, well, so there's much more body positivity. That is great. There are celebrities who are saying, I'm large and I love myself and I love my life, and that's fantastic. So it's much more acceptable to be the size you are. But the diet, I mean, we're still dieting. We have diet apps, we have intermittent fasting, we have keto, we have gluten-free, we have all these different diets. And we even have a new term I learned, orthorexia. So you've heard of anorexia, which is anorexia. Yeah. Orthorexia is right diet. In other words, eating right. And so you're just as obsessed as you were about losing weight, but instead you're, obsessed about, do I have all the vitamins and the minerals in my system that I need, and too much fat or too little this, and so we're still obsessing, and it still takes a lot of energy and time and thought, and we could be using that some other way.
Yeah.
On the other hand, body positivity. I just watched the movie with Emma Thompson called Good Luck, Leo Grand, in which she is naked at the end, and she's 63 years old, and she is not a shapely woman, or she is shapely, but it's just not the ideal shape that we would like to see her on an actress that famous. And I think the next barrier is age related body positivity. Accepting the wrinkles and the sags and the bags that go along with being an older person.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
And over the
And we're
years, have you, I don't even know if this is an appropriate term, but I'll use it because we're familiar with it. Have you had any like backslides over the years of, sliding back from where you were holding the ideal, holding the banner, mindful, and then felt like, oh,
Yeah. During the time, the first year or so that I was working on it, I had lots of backslides, and I mentioned in the book a thinking of myself as being a rocket ship, and a rocket ship heading for the moon has this inertial guidance system, and when the rocket ship wobbles off course, as it tends to do a little bit, the system just puts in a correction. No big deal, just like correction. And the difference between a rocket ship and a human being who looks for all the mistakes is when I eat 2 donuts, I'm like, it's all lost. I might as well eat the entire box of donuts. And so I had some episodes like that where I just said, like, oh no, the shame and blame is just not working here. Just get back on track and explore what went wrong, do a little postmortem without the shame and blame, without the feeling all is lost. It's just a lesson. I mean, every failure is an opportunity to learn something. And there are times when I eat standing up, and there are times when I eat more than I want to, but throwing food away is like, I can do that now. I can do that. Even the last bite of something really fabulous, I can do it.
Yeah.
And that's a shift.
Yeah. How would you say Cherry Pie Paradox is different from the jillion other diet or anti-diet books that are out there?
I think it's different in that it's the step-by-step process that actually works. It's like a journey that works you from where you are today through all the muck. I mean, there's the first few chapters are a lot of muck and unpleasant experiences and stories, and then introducing yourself to other possibilities, and then practicing all the tools, and eventually getting to where you're going. The other thing is that the focus of the book, so it's a process with a lot of practices and self-discovery. I don't really tell you that you should, what you should learn or what you should see, or, it's, you discover this for yourself through the work. Wait a minute, I've lost my train of thought here. Oh, yes, the goal. Many books end with the goal of your reaching whatever the goal was, that now I've lost 60 pounds, or I weigh 127, whatever the goal is. And I know that that's not important, that what's important is that once you reach that, you'll be, it'll be great, exciting, the angels will sing, and then they'll stop singing because life continues. And nothing, the fairy, the prince has not yet shown up after all, and so the thing to think about is like, why is this important? Why do I care about losing 60 pounds? Or why do I care about weighing 100? Why am I doing this? And the reason that I'm doing this is to free the energy that I've had in this weight problem for all these years, to do something else, to start my own business, to learn how to fly a plane, to whatever, to romp with my kids and touch football.
Really opens up having a lot more choice than just the one that seems to be right in front of us, the one that we feel obsessed with or driven by, but that you have created pathways to open up the alternative choices. Oh, I could choose to throw the rest of this away if I am done, or put it in the refrigerator for tomorrow. There's it doesn't have to be consumed in this moment just because it's delicious.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that you don't, it's not prescriptive. You're telling them, what's best for you. in all aspects of your life, especially what you eat. And
Mhm.
so much of our culture is still the expert telling people, studies have shown this is what you should do, or this doctor, or this celebrity, or this, like, just follow my path and you will be happy.
Yeah.
And your book just points to, you know what's right for you. Trust yourself.
Mhm.
I don't know what's right for you. You know
Mhm.
what's right for you.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think that is such a revolutionary act for so many people. Oh, there's actually nothing wrong with me and my instincts. I can actually have a relationship with myself again and know what's right for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Self-trust.
Yeah.
Self-trust.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are there any other important lessons that we haven't maybe already touched on that come to mind that you really hope that your reader, your listener will take away from their experience with Cherry Pie Paradox?
Um, this is probably not what people want to hear.
All the more exciting then.
Excellent.
but it took years and years to create a weight problem or a body positivity problem, or
Mm.
to add the pounds or to develop those bad habits. It's going to take time. This is not overnight. It does not happen overnight. And if it does happen overnight, it will disappear overnight or in a week or whatever. I mean, studies show that that much of the weight that people lose on diets comes back, and with more. And so this is a whole interior shift that is work. It's work. And I hope people will stick to it, because what's at the end is freedom and a pleasure. What's not to love about that?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Um, Melanie, anything else that made this audiobook project unique for you? Because you've done a lot of audiobooks, narrated a lot. So
Mhm.
anything else that feels extra special or unique about this one for you?
Yeah. Yeah. And I sort of have a question for Joy around this too, because narrating this book, I felt myself in community with other women in a lot of ways. And I felt such compassion for my own self and my own struggles. And I wonder, um, for Joy, what is it like after committing so much energy and heart into this kind of service for our community? How has it shifted your relationships, like in community with women, devoting yourself to this good work?
Mhm. Well, just as you said, I mean, I feel uh, I feel that we're all human, and we all have the same struggles. I mean, they look different, they come in different shapes and sizes, but um, there were many times during the Thin Within classes or workshops that I get teary, because um, I understand, or I feel the life that the person has lived that has brought them to this place, and I feel such love and compassion. And I, particularly for people, as people open up and start to share and recognize certain truths about themselves, I just like, oh, that's so nurturing for everyone in the room. And I really regret that I can't teach those classes anymore in person, because it really is a community project. And we learned so much from each other in the classes. The classes were like 20 to 25 people. So there was a lot of sharing, and the sharing is super important, because the things that you know about yourself, there are things that are hidden that you don't know until somebody else says it. And then you're like, oh, me too. Me too.
Me too.
And
Yeah.
so I encourage people to use the workbook to get together with several other people who are on the same journey and work through the workbook together. So they have that extra feedback and accountability. So,
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Joy, is there anything else that you wanted to ask Melanie about her experience?
I should have thought of a good question, but I don't have it.
Well, it was interesting how this book just sort of, I just kind of took it in like osmosis almost, because I would be, down here in my booth recording it through the morning, and I'd be ready for a break. I'd be ready for lunch, and I would just think, I wouldn't even think about it anymore. Like, oh, I'm done. And I'd go upstairs, and like the first day recording, I was just eating. And then suddenly, like this clear voice in me just said, I'm satisfied. Like, I just heard it. And I was like, that's it. I'm doing it. And I thought, wow. And then then it was just sort of a personal journey through the whole recording. And then talking about, I don't, if we call them backslides or call them like life is complicated and confusing, but that later in the week, I went out to dinner and I was like, wow, I love this new way of eating. This is incredible. And we went to ramen and I was like, oh, I love this. I love the egg and I love the noodles and I'm just having such a good time. And I heard that voice. But ramen isn't something you can really keep. It doesn't really last. I have trouble throwing away food. And I made the choice. I was like, I'm just going to finish it. And I did. And I felt bad. But I was like, this is information. Yeah, this is information.
Right,
I made that. And I was so aware. And now even when I pass that restaurant, I'm like, oh, I remember how bad I felt. I remember that I want to trust my own self more than what my bowl looks like at the end of the meal.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people would say, I'm so pissed off because I'm full a lot sooner than I wanted to be. I mean, there's this ramen left there on the, and it's not going to get any better. And I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
But we don't love it more when we're eating past that. Did I enjoy myself? I didn't enjoy myself. It was just an old tape telling me, keep having the fun. But like you said, like when you talk about eating the chocolate, like, is it good? Like, are you? Does it feel good to eat this ramen while your stomach's full? You've had a lot of salt. Like, if it feels great, go for it. But does it? Just asking that question.
I love the awareness that you're expressing about how that new awareness around food. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, and there's also the fact that our experience of food is entirely different at different stages. I mean, you take a brownie and you put it in front of you and you have the expectation, if you're rating the brownie on your expectations, it's a fudge brownie. It's going to be a 10, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's going to be a 10. That's what you expect. And so you take the first bite and it's pretty good. It's like 8, maybe. And then maybe it goes up or down a little bit. And then maybe halfway through, it's like a 6. And maybe at the end, it's still a 6, or maybe it's even a 4, because your mouth is bored. It's had the same thing over and over. And then perhaps after you've done and you've waited a few minutes, you have an aftertaste that is like a 2. It's kind of sour in there. And it's like, and this is the same brownie. It's different all the way through. And
yeah, that was sort of fun because like I had that same experience of, I don't get to eat as much as I used to because I now know it's not as much fun, but it just leaves, like, I look forward to the next meal and I want more variety. I don't just want more of one big whole thing, but like you said, we get bored. I want a different taste. Like dinner will look different than lunch, and and I'll be ready for it.
There was a point when at the early stages that I realized that I was really ticked off because I wanted to eat more things, more,
Yeah.
more things, more different things. And I realized that 1/3 of my meals every day was the same. I had the same breakfast every single day, every single day. And it's like, that's an interesting thing to learn or to notice.
Yeah.
And so I could, eat pie for breakfast or pizza or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up, I just thought I'd give you a chance, Joy, if you'd want to tell us. I understand now you're a color consultant. You have an active, busy practice here in the Portland area. You want to tell us anything more about what you're up to these days?
Well, I mean, I guess I left Thin Within in 1980. And so I'm 82. And so I've had a lot of years. I was 40 when I left. So I've had 42 years since then to do a variety of other things. And so I'm on to different things. And my last 10 years or so, I've been a color consultant, and because I love color, and why not?
That's great.
And I love helping people. And it's a wonderful, intimate process with my clients. It takes 2 or 3 hours, and I get to be helpful. And
nice.
So,
well, I want to thank you both so much for spending this time with me. Again, this is Joy Imboden Overstreet, author of The Cherry Pie Paradox, The Surprising Path to Diet Freedom and Lasting Weight Loss, and Melanie Carey, Seattle-based audiobook narrator and narrator of this audiobook. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Becky,
so much fun.
and Melanie. Thank you so much. You did a fabulous job.
Thank you. I love this book.